The Good Morning Britain studio at ITN headquarters on Gray's Inn Road was buzzing with an energy that felt almost electric. Crew members moved with quiet urgency. Cameras were being checked and rechecked, and the floor manager's voice cut through the hum with clipped precision. The guest booking had leaked the night before, and by sunrise, social media had already erupted into a frenzy. Meghan Markle was coming back to British television. And not just any show. She was sitting down with Susanna Reid. For 12 years, Susanna had earned her reputation as the toughest interviewer on breakfast television. She didn't grandstand. She didn't shout. She simply asked questions and waited with that particular stillness that made powerful people visibly uncomfortable. She had survived 6 years opposite Piers Morgan, a man who could turn a weather report into a battlefield. Nothing rattled her. Nothing prepared her for what was about to unfold. Meghan arrived with an entourage that seemed excessive for a breakfast show. A publicist, an assistant, someone carrying an iPad loaded with notes, and a tight smile that never quite reached her eyes. She walked onto the set like she was entering a negotiation, not an interview. Her handshake with Susanna was brief. Her acknowledgement of Ed Balls was perfunctory. The air in the room grew thin, sharp. "Meghan, welcome back to Britain," Susanna began, her voice professionally warm. "Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me." 3 words. No elaboration. No returning of energy. The cameras rolled, the red lights blinked on, and the interview began. It was meant to be a chance for Meghan to promote her brand, to speak about her work, to reintroduce herself to a country she had once called home. But from the very first exchange, something was off. Her answers were too polished, too rehearsed. And when Susanna asked a simple question about her relationship with Britain, a subject Meghan had discussed publicly many times, the response that came back was so dripping with condescension that the entire studio fell silent. "I'd like to focus on the positive," Meghan said, her voice controlled. Susanna leaned in slightly. "We'll certainly get to that. But I think viewers would like to understand where things stand with you and Britain. You left under difficult circumstances. Has your perspective changed at all?" Meghan's expression remained frozen. "My perspective is that I did what was necessary to protect my family." Protect them from what, specifically? From an environment that was causing genuine harm. The media environment, the institutional environment, the family environment, all of the above, frankly. Susanna nodded slowly. "That's quite a comprehensive indictment. Let's break it down. When you say institutional environment, I don't think I want to relitigate things that have been extensively discussed. But you just raised them," Susanna countered. "You said the environment was causing harm. If you're going to make that claim, surely you can specify what you mean." Meghan's smile tightened. "I specified extensively in our Netflix documentary, in the Oprah interview, in Harry's book. The information is available." "It is," Susanna agreed. "And some of it has been disputed. Some of the timeline issues, some of the specific claims. This would be an opportunity to clarify. I don't feel the need to clarify for people who've chosen to misunderstand." Ed Balls leaned in gently, trying to soften the air. "I think what Susanna is getting at is that there's genuine curiosity." "Curiosity or interrogation?" Meghan's eyes shifted to him. "Because this feels like the latter." The studio went quiet. So quiet you could hear the hum of the cameras, the shuffle of a producer's feet. Susanna's expression didn't change, but something sharpened behind her eyes. She leaned forward, her voice dropping into something cooler, more deliberate. "Interrogation would be hostile questions designed to make you look bad," she said. "I've asked you where things stand with Britain and what you meant by harmful environment. Those are friendly questions, Meghan. Basic ones. Your framing suggests otherwise." "What framing? I literally asked you to specify what you meant. That's clarification, not attack." The tone has been professional. I've been doing this for decades. I know the difference between tough and hostile. This has been soft." Meghan sat back slightly, her arms crossing. "Perhaps our definitions differ." "Perhaps," Susanna replied. But I'd note that you've already characterized this interview negatively, and we're barely 3 minutes in. That suggests the problem might not be my questions. Ed tried to redirect, his voice gentle but strained. Let's talk about something positive. The brand. As ever, we've heard a lot about it. What's the vision? Meghan turned to him with visible relief, as if she'd been thrown a lifeline. As ever is about creating elevated everyday moments, products that bring intentionality to daily life. That sounds lovely. Susanna cut back in, her tone deceptively light. But there's been news recently. Netflix stepping back as a partner. Your show not getting renewed. What happened there? Meghan's relief evaporated. Partnerships evolve. We're taking the brand independent. Independent meaning without Netflix's backing. That's a significant change from your launch. It's strategic repositioning. Whose strategy? Susanna pressed. Because from the reporting, it sounds like Netflix made a decision that the investment wasn't paying off. Reporting can be inaccurate. Is that specific reporting inaccurate? Did Netflix want to continue and you said no? Meghan paused. The pause stretched too long. The silence in the studio grew heavy, thick with unspoken tension. The situation is more nuanced than headlines suggest. Then explain the nuance, Susanna said, her voice calm but relentless. That's what interviews are for. I'm not going to discuss internal business negotiations on television. You discussed plenty of internal family negotiations on television, Susanna shot back. Why are business details different? The tension had become thick enough to touch. Ed shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I think we should acknowledge that business conversations are often confidential, he began. Susanna didn't let up. They are. But she's come here to promote a brand. Part of promotion is explaining what's happening with that brand. Viewers are curious about the Netflix situation. It's relevant. It's relevant to people who want to see me fail, Meghan said, her voice dropping into something harder. Or it's relevant to people who are genuinely interested in your business, Susanna replied. Not everyone asking questions is an enemy. In my experience, most are. That's a sad way to view the world, Susanna said, her voice steady. And I'd push back on it. I'm sitting here asking you about your work. Work you've said you want to discuss. The defensiveness is coming from your side. Meghan's face flushed. I'm not being defensive. You've characterized my questions as interrogation. You've suggested I want to see you fail. You've refused to answer basic inquiries about your business. That's defensiveness, Meghan. I'm just calling it what it is. It put a hand up slightly. Perhaps we should take a different approach. The approach has been straightforward, Susanna said, not breaking eye contact with Meghan. I've asked about her relationship with Britain, her work, and her Netflix partnership. Those are 3 basic topics any interviewer would cover. She's treated each one like an attack. Then Susanna pivoted, her voice softening for just a moment. Let's talk about your father. Meghan's entire demeanor changed. Walls went up. Her eyes hardened. I prefer not to discuss that. You've discussed it before. Extensively. On Oprah. In the documentary. Through representatives. And I've said everything I need to say. But things have changed, haven't they? Susanna pressed. He's been publicly calling for reconciliation. He's been ill. At some point, the estrangement becomes its own story. It's a private family matter. Your husband wrote an entire book about private family matters. Your documentary showed private moments. Why is this different? Because I choose what to share. Selectively, Susanna said. When it supports your narrative, it's shareable. When it complicates it, suddenly privacy matters. Try it again. Susanna, maybe? I'm noting a pattern, Susanna continued, her voice rising just slightly. The royal family issues very public. Harry's conflicts with William very public. But her relationship with her own father private. The inconsistency is worth examining. Meghan's voice rose. There's no inconsistency. There's boundaries. Boundaries that shift depending on who benefits. That's not consistency. That's strategy. You don't understand my situation. I understand that you've discussed family estrangement at length when it involved your in-laws, Susanna said. You're less willing to discuss it when it involves your own family. That's noticeable. She paused, then asked the question that would change everything. How's Harry? Every wall reinforced simultaneously. Meghan's face went rigid. I'm not here to discuss my husband. Susanna's eyebrow arched slightly. This interview is about you. But you're publicly a team. Harry and Meghan. Everything is joint. The foundation, the Netflix deal, the brand. Making him off-limits removes significant context. I have my own identity. You do, Susanna agreed. But you've also built your public presence on coupledom. The documentary was Harry and Meghan. The foundation is co-run. You can't invoke the partnership when it helps and claim individual identity when it doesn't. I'm not invoking anything. You're managing a narrative, Susanna said, her voice dropping into something colder. Every answer is calculated. Every topic is either approved or off-limits. This isn't conversation. It's performance. It leaned in gently. Meghan, I think if you could just share something about how things are going. Things are fine. We're focused on our work. That's quite vague, Susanna noted. There have been rumors. Living apart. Different schedules. Growing distance. Fabrications. I didn't ask if they were true. I asked about the rumors themselves. Why do they persist? Because tabloids need content. But it's not just tabloids anymore, Susanna said. Mainstream outlets. Sources close to you. Either you have a significant leak problem, or there's something to the reports. Meghan stood up slightly, then forced herself back down. There's nothing to them. Then why the difficulty discussing him? If everything's fine, saying so should be easy. Because everything I say gets weaponized. By whom? Me right now? I'm asking how your husband is doing. That's a friendly question. The hostility is in your interpretation, not my asking. Ed made one more attempt to calm the storm. Look, I think we've covered a lot of ground. Maybe we could talk about something lighter. The products. The lifestyle brand. What viewers can expect. We've asked about the products. Susanna cut in. She won't discuss the Netflix situation. She won't explain what the brand actually does beyond buzzwords. I'm not sure what's left. Meghan's composure cracked. What's left is treating me with basic respect. I've been respectful, Susanna said, her voice calm but unyielding. I've asked questions and listened to answers. I've given you multiple opportunities to explain your perspective. You've blocked every one, because you think my questions are hostile. They are hostile. Name one, Susanna said, leaning forward. Name one hostile question specifically. Meghan's mouth opened, closed. The silence that followed was deafening. You can't, Susanna said. Because there wasn't one. I asked about Britain, your work, Netflix, your father, and your husband. Those are the most basic topics any interviewer would cover for someone in your position. You've treated each one as an attack. The framing. There's been no framing, just questions. Direct, clear questions that you could have answered straightforwardly. You chose not to. That's on you, not me. I came here hoping for genuine engagement, Meghan said, her voice hard. So did I, Susanna replied. I've been engaging. You've been defending. There's a difference. You've been attacking. I've been interviewing, Susanna said. In Britain, interviews include questions, sometimes challenging ones. If you can't handle that, perhaps you shouldn't have come on a show known for challenging interviews. Ed winced slightly. Susanna, I'm stating facts, Susanna continued. This show has a reputation for asking tough questions. She booked the show. She knew what to expect. Coming in and then complaining that questions are asked is strange. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the chair. I think we're done. Are we? Susanna asked. Because you've been here for 15 minutes and I still don't feel like I've learned anything. What has Archwell accomplished? Won't say. What happened with Netflix? Won't say. How's Harry? Won't say. What's left? Talking points and grievances. I gave you plenty. You gave me marketing language and accusations of hostility, Susanna said. That's not an interview. That's a press release interrupted by complaints.
It stood partially.
Meghan, perhaps if we just…
No.
Meghan's voice was final. I came here to discuss my work. Instead, I've been interrogated about my family, my business, my marriage. This is exactly what I expected from British media. Susanna remained seated, completely calm. Then why come? If you expected interrogation, why book the interview? Unless you wanted the conflict. Unless victimhood is the brand now. Meghan moved toward the exit, then turned back, her face burning. You're just like Piers. The name hung in the air like a slap. Susanna's expression flickered, something between amusement and steel. Piers walked off this show because he couldn't handle being questioned about his opinions about you. I'm not walking anywhere. I'm sitting here doing my job, asking questions. The person walking off is you. Because this is hostile. This is journalism, Susanna said. British journalism. We ask questions. We expect answers. We note when answers don't make sense. If that feels hostile, maybe examine what you're hiding. I'm not hiding anything. Then why can't you answer basic questions? What has Archwell accomplished specifically? You couldn't tell me. What happened with Netflix? You wouldn't explain. How's your relationship with your father? Off limits. How's Harry? Off limits. The things you're willing to discuss are all positive talking points. The things you won't discuss are all complications. That's not transparency. That's curation. Meghan's face contorted. History will vindicate me. Maybe, Susanna said quietly. But history will also remember this interview, where you came back to Britain for the first time and couldn't handle Good Morning Britain. Not Newsnight, not Panorama, breakfast television. And you walked off. The door closed behind Meghan with a soft click. The studio fell into a stunned silence. Susanna turned to Ed, who looked visibly exhausted. Well, she said, that happened. Ed rubbed his face. I tried to calm things down. I know you did, Susanna said. There wasn't anything to calm. Every question was a provocation to her. That's not my doing. She turned to face the camera, her expression composed but her eyes sharp. I want to address what just happened, because in my 12 years on this show, I've rarely experienced anything quite like it. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Meghan Markle came here to promote her brand and discuss her work. I asked about those things. I also asked about topics that any interviewer would raise, her relationship with Britain, the Netflix situation, her family. She characterized each question as hostile. She accused me of being like Piers Morgan, which, for the record, I'll take as a compliment because whatever else he was, Piers asked questions.
It nodded slowly.
It did feel like every topic was treated as an attack. Because it was in her mind, Susanna said. Every question is an attack. That's the worldview she's constructed. One where everyone who doesn't accept her narrative without question is an enemy. I'm not her enemy. I'm a journalist. There's a difference. She addressed the camera directly. Meghan, if you're watching, and your team certainly will be, I want to say this clearly. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to understand you. I asked about your work. I asked about your family. I asked about your marriage. Those are normal interview topics. You made them impossible to discuss. You've said you want to be judged by your work. Then show us the work. Describe it specifically. Explain what Archwell has accomplished. Tell us what as ever actually does beyond buzzwords. Give us something concrete. Because right now, all we see is grievance. All we hear is complaint. And that's not a brand. That's a wound you keep reopening. She leaned back, her voice softening. You compared me to Piers Morgan. Piers left this show because of you. Because he questioned your Oprah interview and refused to back down. You framed that as your victory. But here's the thing, his questions were legitimate. Some of your claims didn't hold up. The Archbishop didn't marry you 3 days early in your garden. The timeline of your relationship with your father had inconsistencies. Pointing those out wasn't an attack. It was journalism. And if journalism feels like attack, maybe examine what you're defending. Ed shifted uncomfortably, but Susanna continued. Britain gave Meghan Markle an extraordinary welcome when she arrived. I remember the wedding, the enthusiasm, the genuine warmth. What happened after wasn't all the media's fault. Some of it was institution, some of it was circumstance, and some of it was her own choices. Until she can acknowledge that complexity, these interviews will keep going the same way. The footage aired immediately. Live television.
No editing.
No second chances. The clips that went viral were devastating. I've been doing this for decades. I know the difference between tough and hostile. This has been soft. The person walking off is you. Victimhood is the brand now. You couldn't handle Good Morning Britain. Not Newsnight. Breakfast television. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to understand you. Meghan's team released a statement calling the interview a hostile ambush, designed to maximize conflict rather than understanding. Susanna addressed it the following morning with a calm that bordered on defiant. Ambush? She booked the interview. She walked onto our set. She sat down voluntarily. An ambush is unexpected. This was scheduled weeks in advance. What she means is that she expected softball questions and didn't get them. That's not an ambush. That's just journalism. Ed, looking slightly more recovered, added, I tried to find common ground. Every time I tried to redirect to something positive, we got back to defensiveness. Susanna nodded. That's the pattern. Every interviewer she encounters has the same experience. At some point, she has to recognize that the common factor isn't all of us. For Susanna Reid, the interview became a defining moment, proof that her reputation as Britain's toughest breakfast interviewer was well-earned. She had handled it with the professionalism she had built her career on. Firm but fair, direct but not cruel. For Meghan Markle, it was something else entirely. A return to Britain that had gone spectacularly wrong. A confrontation with the country she had fled. And worst of all, evidence that 5 years away hadn't changed anything. She still couldn't handle questions from people who wouldn't simply accept her narrative. Some interviews create understanding. Others confirm its impossibility. Susanna had come prepared to understand. Meghan had come prepared to defend. And by the time she walked off that set, everyone watching knew exactly which one of them had been unreasonable. And it wasn't the woman who had stayed in her chair. That was British journalism at its finest. Raw, unflinching, and unforgettable. What do you think? Was Susanna too tough? Or did Meghan need to hear it? If you're vibing with this content, hit subscribe. More breakdowns coming. More moments that matter. Don't miss what happens next.